I'm going to tell you each your vision. Just kidding. That's not what I'm going to do.
Take notes. But yeah, welcome, and Ellicia.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes. I'll begin now. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about vision boards is it's not for serious people with serious goals. If you are in a place of seriousness, it means you're in this, which I'm going to talk about first because I don't want you to be there. I don't want you to set goals from a place of fear and avoidance. It's just no fun. You're better off just being happy where you are, in my opinion. So don't be serious. Vision boards are for people who are okay with where they're at, right? They're happy where they are, and they want to have some fun. They want to try things. They want to grow for the fun of it, not because it's serious and pressure and we have to get there, right? So we're going to talk about all that. This is the agenda for today. I'm going to give you the fear and avoidance process, which I'm very familiar with. This is where I lived for many, many years. And then the growth and self-mastery process that I've kind of created through trial and error and through what I've learned through many, many failures. So learn from my failures, please. And then I'm going to touch on creating from your future, what that means. It's kind of a weird sentence. Usually we're talking about like create your future, but I want to create from your future, and I want to explain what that means. And then we're going to break out and do the project today. So this won't take too long. I'm going to be really quick, and we will get started. Do you guys have any questions? No, not yet. Too soon. Too soon for questions. Okay. All right. Fear and avoidance. That is going to be an unconscious process, right? Nobody would knowingly choose to be in fear and avoidance. And there are two reasons why this is where most people are. It's because we've got our biological wiring kind of working against us this way. It's not against us. It's not like hurting us. It was our evolutionary way of evolving, right? So we had to have fear at the forefront of our mind to survive. And so this served us. This was a great thing to perpetuate our species, get us out of some rocky times, but it's no longer serving us. Fear does not help us grow. It does not help us create incredible things. It kind of keeps us stuck in a miserable place. And so we want to be aware of our brain's wiring and not make that a problem, right? So when you feel fear, when you're noticing like, oh my gosh, this seems terrifying, I feel like I'm going to die like me right now, you want to tell your brain like, it's okay, you're not going to die, brain. Like, it makes sense why you're afraid of this, why you're perceiving it like a threat, and it's all going to be okay, right? And so no matter what it is, for me, it's doing this. It could be you like, I want to become a knitter and sell my stuff on Etsy. Like, that could feel terrifying to you, and we want to just notice that's normal. There's a reason why that's happening, and you have control over it, right? You don't have to let that keep you stuck. Other piece of this is our social conditioning. We have a very limited view of what life on planet Earth is at this point in time, right? It's kind of like go to school, go to college, get a job, get married, retire. Like, that's not very fun for our souls that want to be creative and be unique and do lots of cool things. So we want to just notice that these two things are kind of keeping us in an unconscious process, and it's starting to get uncomfortable. And you can kind of see it playing out on the world stage. It's like the society's falling apart. And this is, I would attribute it to this, is because we're unconsciously in this place of fear, and we want to become more aware of it. So yeah, what I mean by unconscious is we haven't created self-awareness around why we're doing what we're doing. What's driving the decisions we're making every day? Why am I choosing to think this thought, right? We're not questioning anything because we're just like letting our default way of thinking, our default wiring carry us through life. Which again, we're not judging anyone for being here. This is where everyone is. We're just bringing it up to light to work with it and to see where our power is over it. So these two thoughts are kind of what I've discovered to be at the heart of this unconscious way of thinking. We're usually looking to prove ourselves. So we're setting a goal because we're like, I'd really like to have that, or I'd like to create that in my life. But if it's coming from one of these thoughts, I have to prove myself. I have to prove that nothing's wrong with me, right? That's going to be terrible motivation. You're going to be having a terrible time that whole way there because one, you're creating from a place of unworthiness. You're believing you're starting off on a foot of like, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, I have to prove myself. That's not going to be an enjoyable ride. You're better off not setting a goal. You're better off just being like, I'm going to sit at home and watch The Office, which I really recommend. But if you're going to set a goal, you have to see that these thoughts, like, I want you to see that they are unconscious. They're not going to be marqueing across your brain when you wake up. You're not going to consciously like say, I want to do that, and then like the next thought is going to be because I have to prove myself. It's going to be because my mom wants me to think I'm, responsible, or I want to prove my ex wrong, or it's going to be like some subtle, right, innocent sounding thought that's socially acceptable, but at the deep, deep heart of it, it's coming from a place of insecurity, fear, right, self-doubt, and we don't want to move forward from that emotional place. We want to kind of shift the emotion before we take action, because otherwise, we're just going to be really, really, really sad when we get there. So I'm going to use a couple examples from my own life for your educational purposes. Is that cool? So I have done the growth and self-mastery process, right? Self-created. I totally made that up. Don't Google it. I've done it for many areas of my life. I did it to buy my first house. I did it to create my relationship, which you can do, guys. You can create a relationship. I created you. Anyway, no, just kidding. You can do it. I did it to travel through Europe, like, and to get the guts to like make those plans, go there, make all that happen. I did it to start a business. I did it to get my first clients. It's very, it's working because it feels good the whole way there, right? You arrive there and you're like, that was incredible. It feels good. For the fear and avoidance, when you're in that, the whole way there, you're having a terrible time. You're making it about the destination. Once I get there, I'll finally feel better, right? What you're really saying when you think that is, I hope I don't have a human brain and human emotions when I get there. And so that's going to be a big problem because you're going to arrive, if you arrive, like if you don't quit ahead of time, and you're going to be really disappointed because you're going to be like, damn, I still have this unworthiness I haven't addressed. And at that point, it's just going to be bigger. It's just going to be like harder to deal with in the future. And so I thought, because I've used this process so many times, I thought I'd like gotten there. I was like, I'm in this land of, I've got this down. But it turns out this last year I had a goal to quit my full-time job and just go full-time in my business. That was my goal. And I was like, yep, I'm using the self-mastery process. Like, I got this. No, I wasn't. And I should have known that because of how it felt, right? I was really confused on the way there. I was questioning everything. I was like, how is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Oh my God, is this right? Should I do it here? Should I do it then? Like, those are your little key indicators. Is if you're freaking out and like overwhelmed and anxious about your goal, you're not in a place of growth and self-mastery. You're in that place of fear and avoidance. So it's possible to get to a goal that whole way from that place of lack. It's possible. I did it last year. I quit my job, but I knew I hadn't done it from the place the process I'd usually used, because when I arrived, it was like nothing felt good. I was waiting for the heavens to open. And it's because I was thinking once I got there, everything would be better, right? And so I was very unfortunate that I arrived and I hadn't been managing my thoughts. I had been using force and willpower, which is what created all that anxiety and overwhelm. And I ended up reinforcing this belief, right? I had a sneaky, sneaky belief that like something was wrong with where I was and it would be solved when I arrived at that goal. And so we want to be really careful. This is how sneaky our brain is, and this is what I mean by unconscious, right? I'm a coach. I'm helping people coach their brain. I have a coach, and you would think like, oh, she's got it down. Like she knows to question all of her thoughts. But no, my emotions were like, bitch, like what are you doing? And so I wasn't paying attention to that, and it's very common. So we don't want to judge when we're doing this. We want to just notice this doesn't serve us. It's an indicator to slow down, to be like, what's going on here? What are you thinking will happen when if this goal happens? And just ask ourselves some useful questions. Because what this really does is reinforce and strengthen past patterns, past beliefs that are kind of detrimental to our growth and kind of keep us even stuck more in that place of lack and unworthiness. So this is I tried to make this as simple as possible so you guys can see how you know where you are in a goal. If you're thinking it's not possible, you might tell yourself, I think it's possible, but really you're kind of secretly believing it's possible for other people, or it's possible logistically, but not for me, right? And so it creates a feeling of uncertainty. You kind of become impatient. You start to be really concerned with the how, the when, and then you're unclear why. You're kind of like telling yourself, like, I'll use me as an example. I was telling myself, I want to be full-time in my business because that's what you do. That's what comes next, right? And so the real why, the secret why I wasn't really noticing was because I was like, oh, because I shouldn't be this age working in a restaurant still, right? It's just like a thought that I'm even seeing my sister's face be like, and it's like, because it's like, it doesn't make sense, but that's what I was really believing. And since I believed it, that's what was motivating me from this place of second guessing, questioning, creating that agitation and anxiety. And so we want to just, it's okay if like you find that that's the reason you're there, right? If I found that thought a year ago before I started this process for myself and had been like, okay, why do you want to leave your job? If I was more honest with myself, if I had like sat in that question a little longer before I just dismissed it as like, oh, because I just want to do it and it's just what's next, right? You'd find that my reasoning was like, I'm not good enough here. I need to get there to prove myself. It always comes back to those first two thoughts. And so this is the human experience, right? We're all going to have these tender, sweet moments of, you know, we're hurting, we're confused, and that's why we get help in this process. We know we're not alone. All of our beautiful brains do these things. And so we just want to take care of our emotional states in this process, right? We want to be checking in and being like, am I feeling more insecure on this road, or have I been creating more confidence on this road? And again, you check in with your body to feel the difference. You'll know if you're like agitated and anxious versus calmer and like enjoying where you are in your life. And so that brings me to the last one. You're in a rush. You're like, I really need to get there. It's urgent. There's an urgency around creating your goal. And so you want to look out for that. If there's any kind of like, I got to get there faster, that's just a little indicator that you're using fear as your motivator, and you're going to want to pull back, shift that like decision, that thought you're having about your goal before you keep taking action forward. Does that make sense before I keep going? Okay. Cool. So let's talk about the good one now. No, it's not good or bad. They're both neutral. Okay, so growth and self-mastery is a conscious process. So that means you're sitting down, you're asking yourself questions. Where am I coming from with this? Why do I want this? What do I think it's gonna like provide for me emotionally if I have it? You want to get to a place of self-sufficiency and certainty around why you want something. When we are setting goals from a place of fear, we tend to want things we don't want. We tend to want things that are societally expected of us, or things our parents might want for us, or things like we're doing something out of revenge instead of like we actually want to do it. It's very common, right? We want to just like prove someone wrong. So from this place, we want to begin from, I have nothing to prove. Where I am right now is enough, right? And it's as simple as like me offering you guys these thoughts. Our brain tends to run in circles all day long to never reconsider like what you want to choose to think. It's important from this conscious process that you're choosing what you want to think very often. Otherwise, that default processing is gonna just take on over and keep you in fear, because that's where your brain feels safe. And so I have nothing to prove. This creates an emotional state of self-sufficiency. And so you're no longer in a rush to get to some goal. You're just like, I'm happy where I am. And I'd love to see what happens in this process. It becomes less about arriving at a destination and more about like, I just want to see what I'm capable of. That's a really curious, open-minded place to be. And that is where I recommend you set goals from. Again, don't set any goals if you're going to be afraid like you have to prove yourself. Nothing has gone wrong. This is a thought I repeat to myself all day long because our brain loves to perceive problems, and because it lives for that like stressful, fearful. You guys, we were raised by boomers, okay? They didn't have emotional regulation. We had a pretty turbulent childhood emotion-wise, and that's not a problem. But what our brain is going to want to do is emulate those stressful, dramatic states if it's not being managed, if you're not being conscious of what you're thinking. And so in that childhood conditioning turbulent stage, we're going to be finding problems everywhere. We want to start seeing that nothing has gone wrong, right? Everything that's brought me to where I am here today, that's okay, right? We don't want to like bypass work that needs to be done. If you need to go to therapy, go to therapy. I'll save you 10 years of therapy. You're projecting everything on your partner. That's it. Okay, sorry, that's not a funny joke. But anyway, so those are thoughts you're gonna like, and I would even do like a thought download of all the reasons why that's true. Why don't you have anything to prove? Like, why are you perfectly okay right here where you are? Your brain is going to want to gather evidence for why you should prove yourself, for why it is a race. And so you want to start counterbalancing that with a different argument, right? You want to start challenging those subtle unconscious beliefs with like, right where I am is perfect. I have nothing to prove. I want to love where I am right now and then move forward from there. So unlike fear and avoidance, this becomes about the journey. And it's the purpose of a goal becomes to serve yourself on the highest level. It no longer becomes about other people. It no longer becomes about how you're being perceived to the world, right? You're not looking for approval, you're approving of yourself right where you are. And that really cultivates a sense of self-respect, self-compassion, and don't confuse my words here with like arrogance and belittling other people thinking you're better. That is not what this is. This is like a deep kindness you're giving to yourself because you honor your existence and you're like, I deserve good things because I'm alive and I exist, right? You don't have to have any more reasons than that. And so you're willing to start managing your thoughts, your emotions right now. You're not waiting for a goal to do all that heavy lifting, to do all that tedious work for you. You're like, ooh, I want to give myself the gift of that today. I don't want to wait to feel relief. I don't want to spend another day in fear and avoidance. I want to start moving out of it because I see the value of that. And so that process starts to build and reinforce a self-trust. That's what makes it possible. It's not the action you take. It's not like the people you know, the money you have that makes a goal happen. It's the amount of self-trust you have that makes something happen. Because to feel good in yourself, to feel like you have your own back, it literally raises you to have access to more ideas. You're more creative. You're more like open to see opportunities. When we are in fear and avoidance, we're shutting ourselves down and limiting ourselves from what's available to us. We usually think we have one of two options, like I either get nothing or I die. And so here in self-trust, we're like, whoa, I have like 40 ways forward that I could choose from, and it becomes a lot easier. There's so much less pressure. There's so much less serious, which if you guys can't tell, I don't like being serious. So it's, again, opposite of fear and avoidance. You start off believing it's possible, and it might take you a while to get to this point. For some people, it could be 5 minutes of thought work. For others, it could be 6 months of work unpacking why you don't believe that's possible for you. But once you get there, you know you're there because of the way you feel, right? You're not feeling anxious. You're not feeling overwhelmed. You're not feeling like you have to prove yourself. You're certain that it's possible for you, not for someone else, not that it's possible you can create something, but that it's possible for you. You see a way forward. And then that immediately like helps you get clear on your why. You don't want to do this belief work to believe something's possible if you're not clear on your why. So maybe those should be switched. When you're clear on why you want something, it's aligned with you, you're excited to do this work. You're excited to discover like the reason you want it. And so it becomes less about, like, if we use my example of quitting my job, right? Less about thinking something's wrong with where I am and more, you start seeing all the reasons why where you are is the perfect place to be to create what you want. So I like to use buying my first house for this example, because I moved in and out of like fear and avoidance and then self-growth and mastery. Like I would be in fear and avoidance and I'd know what I'm doing. I'd be aware and I'd be like, I'm in the wrong place. Let me move over here. And it was like a really sweet toggle back and forth. So I got like, and I want you to see how quickly you can do this. You can be like one morning in fear and avoidance, and by the evening shift your attitude, shift your emotions, and be in that different place. So I could tell when I was in fear and avoidance buying a house, because I would be desperately searching online. I would be like, oh my God, I have to find a house. If I don't find a house, like, what am I gonna do? Oh my God, I can't afford it. Like so many things coming up. And you could tell because of how you feel that like you're not chilling, you're not enjoying where you are. And so I'd be aware of it and I'd be like, okay, let's shift over here, darling. And I'd tell myself, right, it's possible that you're gonna find the right house at the right time. What if you didn't have to like stress about those things right now? What if the perfect house becomes available? Like just entertaining the idea of it's possible. And knowing why I want it, right? I wasn't in a rush when I shifted over here because I was like, there's plenty of time. I'm happy where I am. It can take longer than I expect it to take, and nothing will be wrong, right? I'll be safe, right? I'll be alive. You have to tell your brain these things, otherwise it freaks out. And then I would enjoy where I was. I would kind of let go of the goal and be like, I'm okay with how long this takes. And so again, it'd be like 1 week I'm over here panicking, 1 week I'm relaxing. And so when that house arrived, right, when it came on the market, when I put in an offer, I knew I had successfully done the growth process because it felt so rewarding and it felt like I had had my back and I had shown up for this process like respectfully, right? I didn't suffer in fear and avoidance and like stress myself out on the way. I tried, but I caught it. I was careful, I was aware. And so when I got that house, it was like this inspiring, like proud, rewarding moment of not redemption, but just like, I created this, like, good job, like, you did a great job. And so we want that to be the feeling you're going for, and not arriving at your goal and feeling like trash like I did when I quit my job. So we just want to be aware of the feeling. And it's totally okay if you get to a goal from fear. Like, we could probably all think back in our lives when we set a goal and took a path of fear and it didn't feel great. So what I want to give you guys today is just this other option that's available if you're unaware of it as an option. So last thing I want to touch on is creating from your future. So I'm big on this as a life coach. I like to pose possibility for the future, because what our brain on its own does is it recreates our past, right? Because it's comfortable there. It has a set idea of what's predictable, what's certain about the future, and it wants to stay there. And so that's not a problem, but we don't want to let our brain get away with that. We want to be in control of our lives, because that's the only thing we can't control. We can't control anything else outside of us. So in order to create from your future, you kind of have to access, right? Get to a place where you're happy where you are. You're like, I'm okay here, right? I have nothing to prove. Again, we're kind of practicing these thoughts. And then think about your future and think about the feeling of it's already done. Like, whatever you're wanting, take some time to brainstorm what you want. You can do it in 6 months or a year out. Like, maybe this would be a good time to do like a year out for today's exercise. But thinking about it's already done, how would you get to feel if that was the case? If you had these things that are on your heart, that are on your mind, that you would love to see happen for your life, you're going to want to go through the original 3 questions, which are on the worksheet, like, do you believe it's possible? Are you clear why you want it? And is there any feeling of a rush to get there or not? If there is, if you're not clear why, right? Those are questions you can answer later, but it's okay if there's obstacles. The thing with future work is you're creating something you've never created before, so it's supposed to bring up doubts and fears, right? It's supposed to feel a little uncomfortable. And so you have to work for that. It's just a willingness to work for it or not. It's really hard to work for a new future, a created future, when everything's serious and there's a lot of pressure and it seems really urgent. It's just not fun. And so I wouldn't recommend to do it from that place. But if you're coming from a place of I have nothing to prove, this is going to be awesome, I want to see who I can become, you can look at these obstacles and handle them. And so what I want you to know about obstacles is the only obstacle there ever is a mental one, is a thought you're believing that's stopping you, that's keeping you in a place of fear. And so we want to build self-awareness and slowly check them off one by one so you're moving closer to that future you've created. And so knowing what you want and believing it's possible, that's kind of what's on the worksheet, so I won't go into that anymore unless, do I have something to say? Know what you want and believe it's possible. Nope, I have nothing else to say there. Choose your fuel wisely, which by fuel, I mean your emotions. We want that to be the most important piece of this, because this is your life experience. Usually the reason we want or don't want anything is because of how we think it'll make us feel. But what we need to realize is we control how we feel based on what we think. And so we want to choose our feelings wisely. If we're feeling fear and avoidance, that's just a great indicator, it's not a problem, that we want to slow down and refuel with something different. And that might be moving from fear to curiosity, right? We're not making quantum leaps from fear to elation. We're just taking incremental steps to take care of our feeling before we go out and take action. And so with any kind of new future, anything that you haven't seen or done in your past that you want to create in your future, there's going to be transformation. And I don't know if you guys know this about transformation, but it's uncomfortable. And you want to quit in transformation because it's hard and you have to commit to it. And so we want to allow transformation to take place, and all you have to do is keep all these things in your awareness. It's okay to slip out of them. It's just a matter of, are you willing to do the work to get back into that place of growth, of feeling better? When the goal is to feel better, it's more fun to do this work if you know that that's the goal, right? And you can feel better now. So transformation becomes a lot more effortless when we're aware of these things, doing it on purpose, knowing our why, and having fun and not taking anything seriously. So I think that's all I want to say. Do you guys have questions or comments? Anything you want to add? Good? Okay, so what you can do before you guys come up to get materials, or during, you can stagger and just begin as you please, but I would take some time to think about all the areas of your life as a whole as you're planning a vision board, right? There's no right way to do a vision board. That's why I didn't really talk about that at all, is because you could do anything and make it your own. I think it's more important where you're coming from for these goals than how you design them on a board. But I want you guys to have fun with this, and Jessica had the idea of like writing down key words for the year, anything that comes up from hearing all the things I've said. How do you want to feel this year? That's what I would focus on. And that's about it. So I don't have a killer ending here, but that's all I've got for you guys.
That was wonderful.
Thank you. Kapkumka. Thanks, guys. Okay, yeah, so whoever wants to start making their boards. Thank you, guys. I'm gonna get a snack.
Okay.